and welcome to the Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio Show. I'm Derek Asklar. Craig Talley's on the line there. We'll be hosting the show and trying to start it off on a path anyway. If you want to get involved in the conversation or start up a new topic, just give us a buzz at 352-504-4170. Or you can get to us through Skype at derek.asklar1, and I'll put it up on chat here in a minute. If you live outside the country or what have you, you can use the computer and not cost you anything because international calls get expensive. But at any rate, Craig, I went out a little bit a couple days ago, and I talked about that over at that Tollbridge property. I don't even know if I mentioned it, that they had the hickory nut thing. Did I talk about that on the last show? The tree that I found out there, the sight reading or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mention that? Okay, I was I couldn't remember if I mentioned that or not, because down here, whenever you go to a site anywhere and you walk on it, the first thing that I'm looking for is, okay, was there a house? Was there a foundation? Is there bricks laying around? You're going through all this different scenarios where the house could have been if there was one, the privy, the wells, that kind of thing. Well, what I'm running into is I have like over 400 acres that I'm doing right now, and there's other than a house that is there, that is from that era that's still there. It's a little cracker shack. There's really nothing else to look at on that entire piece of property that really stands out as being, okay, there was activity here. There was people here. They did this or that. I just don't have anything to go by. So I've been, I know we're about where the Stagecoach Road was down through there, and well, I'm looking for trees. I'm looking for vegetation, and Craig and I talk about this a lot. If you find even if it's a small plant, like a rose plant or something like that, sized growth, and it doesn't look like it fits in, the first thing you got to think to yourself, okay, in this area, is there anything else that looks like this? This is the only one, and that's the kind of thing that I'm doing now, because that shows that somebody planted that, or it was brought there. Not all the time, but if it's not indigenous, you have to assume that it was planted there. And then you go, next is the growth of it. I'm dealing with some of these palms. I think I have 2 palms on the entire 400 and some odd acres. And there's a lot of woods on this property too. They're not really so-called indigenous to this particular area as much. My wife was looking at some of the photos I took of them. She goes, those don't look like they were I don't know, just grew there. There's no other way. There's another one for 1,000 acres or something like that, or more. And she goes, it just looked like they were planted. It looked like they were grown somewhere else and brought in. And from the size of them, Craig, I think one of them's 15 to 20 foot tall. And there's big growth of trees around it. It just grew in a weird spot, and it's not a spot I would really think of a palm tree growing. Some of the other stuff you look for, you don't have palm trees up north, but any kind of perennial plant that, you're pretty obvious to stand out as not being there from there. You're looking at these things because it just shows people live there, people were there, or they did something there, to give you an idea of where to start at. Because, you go walk into these fields, and I have my hats off to a lot of these guys over in the UK. They show them, and they're hunting a lot of farm fields, Craig. Where do you start? We did that at Horsham, Pennsylvania, when we were up there. We're standing in this field. Okay, I don't have anything to look at. It's just a field. It's a plowed field. So it makes it, I think, a lot tougher. But you're essentially doing, once you find something, I don't know, it could be a button, it could be a bullet, it could be whatever, and you work your way out and around that, and you start finding activity more and more and more as you go. But the initially looking at it, it's daunting. It was fun the first 2 times I went out, Craig, but my gosh, it's been a battle since. And I know you've dealt with this a lot over the years, I think, haven't you? When you get up into these wooded areas and fields and stuff up there.
Yeah, it's especially like if you're searching the area and you're not really finding anything, and it's a huge area. And I think what happens is a lot of times, you got so much area to cover, you start speeding up and not really keeping the coil in the ground right and stuff, with your swing, where you're trying to find something. But, it's
You know, you got to remember to do all that, and it just
you
right, it does
can
get
have
overwhelming.
You can, walk right by a spot if you don't get any signals, or don't hear any square nails, or, it was, you can walk right by a spot almost and not find anything. And it depends on the area and the spot too.
Right. But it's funny how I can't even. The one day I didn't even really get any iron hits. I was like, my gosh, 200 plus years of history and knowing people were here, and I'm not getting even an iron nail. I mean, it was like, it wasn't that far. It just seemed like it was a 2-acre spot. I didn't get anything, but it was probably, maybe 10 feet, 20 feet. It gets to that point where you're like, okay, I know I got my detector set up right, and I know, I'm doing the sweep right. I got, got all this. I'm doing everything textbook, so to speak, and I'm still not, and if the stuff's not there to find, it's just not there to find. But it flabbergasts you when you really, especially if you're not finding something, you're like, man, there's got to be something here. I know it. I got too many stories, too many photos of, and that's just my situation. A lot of us get into these. Well, look at Brandon Stewart. I remember when he goes up, 3 miles into the woods, Craig, just walks up there and he's looking for cellar holes. It's like a needle in a haystack, so to speak. And then, trying to find activity on the way. He'll hike, 2 or 3 miles into the woods up there in New Hampshire and, hunt and stuff like that, which is an adventure in itself. I think, Craig, you do it over there. I
used to do it all the time.
Yep.
I'd hike up all the creeks, and because I knew that, it was like vast areas that, just went in miles in every direction. And I got lost 2 times really bad.
Oh, God.
And I finally, the way I found my way out by, I came across the creek, and I decided, if I could find the main creek, I knew where I was. And so I followed that creek, and it led right to the main creek, which I thought probably would do. But it's you feel more alive when you're lost than you do anytime else.
Oh, yeah, because I've been there.
And it's easy to get turned around, and once I was in an area a few times, then I knew where I was, but
right.
A lot of people, when they go out in the woods all kind of look the same. But if you've been there, if you've done it a lot, it doesn't really look the same.
Well, I know one thing: you don't pretend like you say, I'm walking in a straight line. I'll come to something eventually. But you step around a tree, then you step around a rock, then you trip over a log, and you stand back up and start walking again. Every time you do this, you're changing direction a little bit, and you end up walking yourself into a circle. I've done that before when I was a kid, and I learned real quick to pick out, wherever the sun is, if it's to my back or whatever, something to keep me walking straight. Because, God, I got so lost one time. I was gone, I think it was 6 hours. I was wandering around in the woods. Finally got the heck out of there and had to walk 2 miles back to the house.
This guy Mike that I used to go out with years ago, and he was a woodsman, and he did a lot of deer hunting and stuff. And he made me start walking. When we'd be coming back, he would make me lead, so I would learn how to, And I started paying attention. I'm not a sight person. I don't use sight at all.
Right. Yes.
I'm just not a visualizer at all. But I started learning about, where the sun was, where the car was based, on where the sun was and stuff like that. And, it also helped, when I'd walk into a big area, and you go, where do I start? And I'd start right on I'd look for, the first thing I'd do is look for hillsides that were facing to the east.
Yeah, you turned me onto that a couple years ago about that.
Yeah, and the soldiers, they were in the winter camps, and they were freezing in the winter, and they would always have their hut facing to the east, in the morning, so they get the morning sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Listen, I never really thought about that aspect of it, Craig, because you're
the
up there
only
in
time
Virginia and stuff.
the only time they didn't was when they were real close to the river, and the you know the river causes wind to come off in every different direction.
Right.
So it doesn't, and you can get some really hard winds coming off the river in the winter. I mean, it can be like 40 degrees and it feels like it's minus 40. It's the wind is so bad.
Yeah.
And we were hunting these hills, we couldn't find anything this one time, and my hands were just, frozen, and my face was burning, from the wind. And otherwise, I was, it wasn't that bad, but, and I just said, man, I got to take a break. I want to go on the other side of the hill. And I was kind of, went through this little gap, and, I started, just swinging behind the hill. And all of a sudden I started finding all this stuff, and I'm looking, and there's hut sites. And I'm like, oh, my God, we walked right by this and didn't even see it.
Oh,
and then I thought, no wonder they're on this side of the hill. The wind is horrible, And, nobody in their right mind would build a camp right there on the other side.
Yeah, school of hard knocks, Craig.
'Cause you're on the other side, and there's not even a leaf blowing,
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it happened to you. That's kind of
like,
neat in a way. It was happening to you, and you decide, you just did what anybody would do, but we don't. You got to be in the right mindset as a relic hunter, because you have a nice clean day and you're just out there swinging it. That's a cool story. I like that.
Yeah.
But I use your information even down here because I'm thinking, okay, we don't have hills. We have hills, but they're nothing like what you're talking about. And, it's tropical more or less down here. But where would they bed down or whatever? I mean, we're talking 200 years ago. What environment would they be in? What are they looking for, foraging for? I mean, of course, we're near water. Anybody, you're going to put a camp near water because you don't want to travel too far for it. It's funny how we can incorporate a lot of the things that you guys do up there, Civil War hunting or Revolutionary War hunting or whatever, the little tips and tricks, if you want to call it. How we use it in other places to try to figure out what's going on where the activity was. And it just, it kind of floors me sometimes, all the information I learn when I hunt with you, Craig, or I go up to Ohio or Tennessee or whatever, and that's why I'm watching people, what they're doing, where they're going, because they know their area, they know where the stuff is. I mean, you've been hunting for relics there, Civil War relics for, 30, 40 years, just about.
I'm in my 34th year.
34th, yeah. I mean, I'm going to watch what the heck you do, what you're going, how you're swinging, everything else to see what I can incorporate in the way I hunt. It makes me a better hunter, too. And then, somebody's, asking me questions or whatever. It's a sharing information, wealth of information that we wouldn't normally, I don't know. It puts it kind of in perspective. But, I mean, you know where I'm getting at. You just wouldn't normally think this way unless you knew how to think that way. And you learn it from other people that you're hunting with or talking to on the chat lines or what have you. I mean, it's like Loy and Ohio Relic Hunters even was even talking about some stuff too on chat, and I can't keep up with both because I can't think two things at once. But we do. And I call it daunting. It's part of the adventure, part of the thrill of Metal Tech. It's not, if everybody found something all the time, it wouldn't be fun. There's some days, and there's a lot of days I've come home with nothing that was worth speaking of. And when I get excited about a wheat penny, Craig, that's pretty bad. I mean, it's tough. It makes it a challenge. It makes it, I keep on going back there because I know, there's got to be stuff there. You just got to get your coil over it. And so I pick, 2 or 3 hour period of time. If it's really been pretty slow with it, I may give up that day and come back the next day because you don't want to burn yourself out either. And I've been on sites, those real trashy sites, Craig. I've had, I had a couple of guys, this has been a couple of years ago, and we just decided to hunt there, and it was so trashy, he walked away. He said, I can't do this. I can't hunt this spot. This is crazy. There's junk everywhere, and it wasn't really that bad. I mean, Mark Hoover and Mike Miller hunted with me on that property, and I think Mark found two or three bling rings. I mean, they were not gold rings, but I mean, they're still the rings. And Mike Miller found a wheat penny and something else. But they'll tell you that place, buddy, you got to be on your game to be able to really hunt and enjoy it there. And it's not like we're digging up, you know, car bumpers or something like that. It's just little stuff, like pull tabs, a lot of, I call it pig iron, Craig. You know, that this stuff that is set off a metal detector, just enough to make you interested. But, I had a button spill. I think it was 50 buttons, just different eras, mostly pre-World War II, probably between 1900 and 1940. And, I had a button spill there. It's like 50 buttons. And they were all within about a 5-foot area. So you can imagine how busy that is in your ears going off like crazy to be able to hunt that. And still have to deal with iron and stuff around too. So, yeah, I had... Guy says, I can't do that, so we'll go somewhere else. I mean, I always tell guys, hunt the trashy areas for like an hour, if you know a spot that has stuff, that you found stuff before, but it's really messy. Enjoy, do that for an hour, then go on to your other spot. And it's a little bit, I don't know, more relaxing to hunt, because you can miss a signal so fast, or you talk about it all the time in your yard. This iron stacked up the way it is and stuff right next to each other, it's a fluke sometimes that you even get a target out of there. I mean, when you have a penny sitting right on a square nail or something, or right next to it, and it's 8 inches, 9 inches down in the ground. I mean, that's a hard little. That's where your recovery delay comes in so good on these newer detectors. But I mean, just to be able to find that, and you had to hit it from a certain direction at a certain whatever to be able to get it, because you hunted that yard a million times already, but you're still pulling it out. So. There's a skills. You got to have skills, or you learn skills. One of the two.
Or you got to have patience too.
Yeah.
I that's one thing. I when I was a kid, I was totally impatient. But I learned over the years that it doesn't do any good to be impatient. You got to work. You can't. Every kid wants everything right away.
Yep.
And it just doesn't happen. You got to. You got to work at it. And I had the work ethic from running track and stuff and playing tennis. And when I went out, I just decided, I got to do everything, the right way. And a lot of times I like hunting by myself because other people kind of, mess my pattern up.
Yeah.
And I would always. I had a couple friends that would hang all day with me, but there was other people that got tired and they want to, we get out there and you're a mile out in the woods, and all of a sudden they want to go somewhere to get lunch, and waste a couple hours or an hour and a half coming in and out, And after you do that a couple times, I was like, a couple times I would go I would just drive myself and meet them,
Well, I'm telling you.
Well, we're going to lunch. I go, see you later.
I never ran into that really, Craig. I mean, I hunt with when I hunted with Mike Miller and Mark Hoover. I mean, we're all on the same page. We want to hunt first. Then when we're done hunting for the day, then we can go get some lunch, or dinner or whatever it be.
Yeah.
Why would I go eat lunch when I can metal detect? I mean, that's the game here. So.
Yeah, like Mike and Steve, they would hunt all day, but Howard was pretty good, some of the other guys, but they would be dragging at the end of the day, but they were totally diehards,
I don't know why they would be. I never have, right, Craig? Never been dragging. Craig's seen me where I pretty much need to drag myself out of the woods. I don't care. I don't care how bad it hurts, Craig. I just want to go out the next day. It's an addiction, I tell you.
I used to play 6 hours of tennis every day, in the heat,
right.
At full speed. And I used to run in the summer 10 miles in under an hour every day training, when I was in high school, people said, I'd be in these tennis camps, out there in the heat all day, and people go, man, you don't even look like, you're even bothered by the heat. And I go, part of it's a state of mind,
Well, yeah.
And then part of it is I'm used to it, this is nothing, it's only 90 today, I've been in matches where it's 100, 104, and you're seeing double at the end of the match,
I find that out down here too when I'm outside a lot. I can, the next day is no big deal. I actually come in the house and I get chilled from the air conditioner. But now I told Pauline this, I got to get out there and start work because I've been having to do a lot of stuff inside the past, I don't know, other than going out metal detecting, doing a lot of stuff inside. And, of course, it's been over 90 degrees and we have the air conditioners running. And going back out, I can feel the heaviness of the humidity and everything so bad. And in other words, I've gotten lazy, I think, the last few days, and I'm paying for it now because if I spend all my time outside doing stuff, I don't care if it's, cutting the lawn or moving stuff or metal detecting, whatever, I'm building up that endurance to that heat, your environment or whatever. And so going out, it's not as a big of a deal as than to everybody else because they're air conditioned babies. That's what I call them. I was one too. We get into that mode down here where you guys stay inside up north when it gets cold out. A lot of times between noon and 4 every day, I'm inside. I am not getting in that sun and that heat. I wouldn't metal. I don't like metal detecting at that time. It can zap the heck out of you. And if any of you've ever had heat stroke or heat exhaustion, it's not a good feeling, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere. And that's why I kind of take it. I take it to as far as talking about it, to extreme because when you're having fun out there, you sometimes forget. And if you're hunting by yourself, it can be a pretty dangerous situation. You don't think about it. You think cold would be the worst, but heat exhaustion can, feel like you're paralyzed sometimes. You can't breathe. You're sweating so bad. Or when you stop sweating is when you really gotta.
Yeah, you almost feel cold.
Yeah, you can. I've almost been to that point, a couple different times, and it wasn't doing anything, Craig. It wasn't doing anything like crazy, exercise wise, or when I'm out in metal. It happened twice when I was metal detecting, several years ago. I wasn't like covering a lot of ground. I was working pretty slow. But I was in the direct sunlight, and I'd been out there for 3 hours baking in that sun. And of course, I wear a lot of black and dark colors, even with shorts on. But it really hit me. Car wasn't too far away, but I just had to turn the car on, turn the air conditioner on, get some more water. That's another thing I wasn't doing is I wasn't drinking a lot. But you're sweating out like crazy, so yeah, duh, you got to drink water, so we harp on it a little bit.
You got to hydrate.
Yeah.
It's,
I don't want to see anybody go through that. Yeah.
I used to, most of the weight of my tennis bag was, I had all these Gatorade bottles full of Gatorade and water,
yep.
That I'd carry, with me, to match.
Yeah, Craig's car's a mess. It had a Gatorade bottle all over the back of it. He does do it, guys. Sorry.
But God, I probably drank probably a lake full of Gatorade. And
yep.
those kind of drinks over the years.
Yeah,
water. They were out, like I think Gatorade came out in the '60s. I remember getting it then.
You remember Tang? Anybody remember Tang?
Yeah.
Well, you do. You're old, Craig. You're old like me. A lot of you guys. I know Ohio Relic Hunter knows what it is.
I'm older than you are.
I know you are. Say Loy's on here tonight, and I know he knows what it is. Tang, that drink they made. I was right before they went to the moon and all that stuff from the space race. They, I guess they drank that or whatever. See Nelson on here tonight. Nelson Sauter and Bill Marsh and is on.
There was a funny one. Like I loved milk. When I was a kid, I didn't even care if I had anything to eat as long as I had that 10 glasses of milk.
You need to buy a cow, brother.
Yeah, and but anyway, when I went to my cousins, they had, I think it was 9 kids in the family, and first time I ate cereal, pour milk on there, and I go, man, there's something wrong with the milk, They had powdered milk. I was like, oh my God. I said, this milk, there's something wrong with this milk,
Don't taste right, or don't smell right.
What do you mean, but my mom had explained they got 9 kids, they can't afford milk.
Hey, when we were growing up, Craig, my mom would buy that powdered milk stuff when I was, I don't know, I barely remember it now, but I remember the taste of that. And back then, it wasn't like it is today, because we've had some since just to try it, and it's not too bad. But back in the 70s, I mean, it was pretty noticeable. It did not taste like the milk I got out of my jug, when I'm a kid. So, yeah, if you remember the nasty powdered milk, yep, you're getting old.
One thing, when I was a kid, Dad didn't skimp on food. He loved steaks and all kinds of stuff,
I found out, later on that my parents did a lot of stuff. My dad was always thinking about the future kind of thing. Always wanted to put money away. Always, do things right the way he saw it, anyways. And we ate good, but we ate wholesome. I mean, we didn't eat out of a box. And it's so common now. I mean, I do it. I mean, I'm guilty of it. It's just easier to grab that box of stuffing or the box of whatever and throw it together than it is to go, make it. And, I did that for a long time. And, I think that's why I've dropped a lot of weight, too, because, you can, when you talk to Pauline next time, you can ask her, I'm making real food. I mean, you cook it. You don't pull it out of a box and throw it on there. I'm making sauces and stuff. I enjoy cooking. In other words, I've kind of grown into it, but I can make it the way I want to. And even steaks and stuff. I don't need marinades and all that. I mean, a steak is a steak. It either, you want the taste of the beef. That's why you're eating a steak. Why would I cover it up with all them marinades and all that junk? Or, that kind of thing. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Eat right. Eat what you want.
That's one thing. My dad would put every kind of sauce and mustard and everything else on the steak, and I never put anything on it. Maybe salt a little bit.
Salt and pepper. Yeah.
Yeah. But he would always ask me every single time for years. Every time, would you like salt? Would you like pepper? Would you like this? Would you like that? Every time, even though he knew I didn't want it, he would always ask.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with spices. I mean, I think spices are great, paprikas and garlic, and use the spices. But man, you don't need to cover everything with these this junk. You can make a lot of it yourself. I'm not talking about necessarily marinades or stuff, but I'm because I do like pork and stuff. I like to put that on barbecue, and I'm not an idiot. But I mean, I'm just people just don't know. They just don't know how to cook for themselves anymore, or as much as they should. I mean, you can make some doggone good food. I mean, I see my one of my nieces. She goes, "Oh, I love chicken and dumplings." So she goes to the store and she buys chicken and dumplings out of a can, which they're kind of close. They're at least kind of close. But making your own chicken and dumpling, or making your own stew, your own chili, or whatever, making it the way you want it, and you're picking better ingredients anyways. Because if you're using, a real onion, it's better than dried onion. You know what I mean, Craig? It's healthier. Doesn't have the preservatives. Doesn't have any of that junk. And I think that's what I've dropped. I don't know, since I saw you, I mean, I probably dropped almost 40 pounds, 50 pounds. And I haven't exercised. I'm just eating right. I mean, I'm not even choosing my food, by how many calories it has or nothing. You can have all that junk, and counting carbs and counting this, and screw that. I'm going to eat what I want to eat, but just be smart about it. Don't sit there and eat a whole cake or something like that and expect not to gain 10 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can enjoy stuff in moderation. It took me a long time because I'm like your dad, Craig. I love food, and I know I do, and I enjoy it, but I have to rein that in. So I'll have 3 or 4 meals a day, but they're going to be smaller ones.
It drove him crazy because I just didn't care. I just
Well, we played sports. That's what the thing is. When I played football, soccer, basketball, whatever. I mean, I was throwing back carbs, and a lot of us are the same way. We played sports in grade school, high school, college. You're pounding, calories. You're just eating whatever you want as much as you want, and you're not gaining a pound. You're gaining muscle because you're out there working every day, or playing or whatever, football, basketball. It doesn't matter what it is, tennis. and you're burning all those calories. So yeah, you can shovel them in because you're burning them right off anyways. But then you stop, and that's where my problem came in. Wasn't as active, after rodeo and all that stuff. And I was eating the same though. I love to eat. So yeah, I put on a lot of weight fast, and I drove truck for 18 years. That didn't help.
Well, at one point I gained about 15 pounds over about a 5-year period. Because I had all of a sudden I had a business, and I couldn't exercise every day. I was lucky to be able to do it on Sunday. I was at Melotech on Sundays, but it just I had to do the business. I came first.
Right.
I remember after they tripled my rent, and I was kind of glad because everything had started going mail order, and then all of a sudden mail order got destroyed by the internet.
Right.
But it just it was funny, all the big box stores. That's when the mail order people started coming out, and you could buy a lot of stuff a lot cheaper. They
Right.
started hurting all these big stores, and all the malls started going under. But
Yeah.
it's
The Sears and Roebuck, remember their catalog, J.C. Penney's catalog.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
they're totally bankrupt. They're
Yep.
still in business.
Yeah, sure.
It's like,
Open up.
I don't understand it. The guy, I used to go in there every once in a while. They have good tools. They have good craftsman tools.
Yeah. I mean,
And,
as long as they keep good
and
products, they'll survive somehow.
But it's just like a huge department. I mean, it's a major. They got everything.
Right.
Appliances, bedding. It's just clothing, everything. And you go up there and buy something, and then you try to find somebody to pay. So you can pay them.
Yeah. I've heard.
And there would be like one cash register open on each floor, huge floors, It was like, but it was the same thing with Penny's. Penny's went under before they did. Well,
Yeah.
they went all the way under. I remember I worked at Montgomery Ward's when I was a kid at Springfield Mall. They went under. Then they renovated the whole thing, and then it's gone under again.
I remember Sears and Farmore, and I can name them off, like the superstores, so to speak, or whatever, like Walmart. Well, not quite like
Part
Walmart.
of the problem was the rents killed them.
Yeah.
Killed the stores. In the beginning it wasn't so bad, but when I had my store, I used to get maybe 5. Every couple of years. I was there for 10 years. Every couple of years I'd get a 3 to 5% jump. And all of a sudden, they're going to triple the rent
Right.
and renovate the whole place. I wouldn't have been able to even do anything for about 6 months, while they renovated that whole wing of the shopping center.
Yeah, they just, that's
but
bad business
I was
there, but anyway, yeah.
I thought, it's just time to go into something else. And I started talking to a couple of people, and this friend of mine that I'd strung rackets for, and he'd been a professional coach and, coached the number 3 player in the world, the women's player in the world for a few years,
Yeah.
Years ago. And I'd helped him out in his tennis camps and stuff. And he said, man, you got a job at my tennis camp, and, I got a lot of people that want to string, rackets and stuff. And so, and then I met another guy, and I got, he wanted me to help him coach this high school team, and I ended up getting into that, And,
Hey, it opens up doors. That's,
Yeah, and it was a lot easier. I didn't have to sell stuff, I was teaching, and and most of the kids are, they were so thankful that they had a good coach, because I knew what I was doing, I'd read every book I could have they had on tennis, when I first started playing. But I learned from the best. I mean,
That's,
these guys.
yeah, I mean, you made use of what you learned, and it worked out to teach somebody else that stuff. I mean, you can't ask for more than that.
It was funny. I had such a hard serve that, I could hit 120 all day, 125, and there's like players on the circuit right now that can't hit that hard, but the rest of my game wasn't as good, but I was real fast. I could cover the court, and
Craig, do you think
I would bug these, good players, I would bug them,
mm-hmm.
and, hey, give me some tips, and stuff like that. And I met this one Davis Cup player, and I was hurting him when we first started playing, and he discovered what I couldn't do, and he started, doing it. And after the match, he said, I don't give lessons, but I'll give you strategy lessons, and you need to learn better strategy. So that made all the difference in the world. It was unbelievable. I ended up taking a set off of him the second year.
Jeez.
But and he played, Davis Cup for Israel and on the pro circuit.
Right.
So but
I was just thinking, do you think it's because it is not derogatory at any means, but do you think it's because you work hard, your generation worked harder in a way? Compared, because like today, I'm not really getting at I can just pick tennis right now. They have a set way nowadays. Okay, it says you do it this way and you swing this angle, and you like golf. This way you swing, they tell you what to do, and this is the way it's done, and everything. But they have no. Trying to think. They don't have that adventurous side or whatever. I don't know, to change it up a little bit. Do you think it's because you're? And I see it in my generation too. The way we look at stuff is different.
I think, a lot of my. I started just reading books and hitting on backboards, and I learned and then I started playing against people in doubles and different just rallying with people in the courts and stuff, and I started figuring out I could hit a backhand. The backhand's the hardest shot to hit usually for most people. My backhand, I could hit bullets with it. I could attack people and hit 100-mile-an-hour shots off of it.
Right.
And
my forehand, total aggression. I mean, that's
my forehand, I could hit hard, but I was more erratic. My form wasn't as good.
Right.
But my backhand and my backhand volley, I had a super overhead. I could put balls away anywhere in the court, when they lob. And I could run sometimes I knew the guy was better than me on a slow court, so it'd be a hot day, so I would just run him to death. I wouldn't even try to win the first set. I would make him, run an extra, corner to corner, and I'd win matches. Like I'd lose the first set in the tiebreaker, and then they wouldn't get another game the rest of the match. The guy would be totally dead. They would stop going for the ball, because they knew what I was doing.
Well, Craig, that's why I was talking about being methodical. I mean, you and I think a lot alike on like metal detecting, anything we do. We're kind of on the same page all the time, and I learned that. Honest, I remember I was on a soccer team, and the coach, we knew the other team, and the team was the creme de la creme, the best players in the entire area. They were undefeated for like 5 years or something. Like nobody even came close. You were lucky to score 2 or 3 goals on these guys. I mean, they were they were good. And here we are, a ragtag bunch, pretty much you join the soccer club and you can, you join, it wasn't through a school or something like that. And, the coach knew it. He says, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already. These guys are going to stomp us. We're going to do the best job we can, good teamwork, all that stuff. But, they just have a lot of advantage, a lot of experience. And he says, you can do it 2 ways. He goes, you sit there and just do your best, and they're, they may score a bunch of goals, whatever. It doesn't really matter. We may lose, so just go out there and have fun, kind of bad attitude. He goes, or you can turn it around on him. And we all looked at him. He goes, every time you get the ball, kick it out of bounds. Every time, you just stop the play. Every single time, frustrate them to death, and you win. You've made them do what you want them to do that way. And we ended up scoring a couple goals. They only beat us 5-3. I mean, we actually scored a lot, but it was just that it was a different way of looking at frustrate your opponent, at the point, and make that your advantage. Be competitive, still, don't break any rules, but make it tough on them the best way you can. And kind of like what you're running the guy around the court. Heck yeah, if you have that kind of aim and you can hit, I don't know a lot about tennis, but if you can make a person run, that's part of the game right there. That's that's
even the pros have a hard time making a running shot. Anybody can stand there and not have to move at all, and the ball is in a perfect position, and they can, just about any competent player can hit a good shot off that, or a winner.
Well, it makes it more exciting for the spectators to see somebody out there busting their butt instead of, it happens in all sports. I'm not saying any, all of them. But
I treated, sports like a war. I was going up against the enemy. I was going to destroy them. I used to try to beat them so bad that they didn't ever think they'd have a chance the next time they played me. And it kind of worked. I mean, it was. But I did the same thing in track. I'd never talked to anybody. I was ready to run over people. When I ran, I was total warrior. That's the way I looked at it. They were trying to beat me, and I was, I wasn't going to let it happen.
Well, it wasn't worth doing if you couldn't be the best at it or do the best you could at it. You're out there to win. That's the name of the game.
I remember I was telling my coach, I was really lucky because my coach, was very good, and he'd been an All-American in college, and but I was always obsessed with records. I wanted to, break the record.
Right.
And he goes, that's the opposite of what you need to worry about. And I go, what do you mean? And he says, you only worry about winning. You don't worry about any records at all. And he said, if you're well, he said, if you're winning, you're going to beat all the records.
That's the way you have to have a goal. You have to have to me, you have to have a goal. And that was your goal, to break the records.
I still did, but, and
the winning comes along with it.
I had the state record, I had the regional record, I had the metropolitan record, I had the school record. I was the first state champion for my school. I did a lot of crazy stuff,
Well, it shows, too. You're in Hall of Fame, twice already, or whatever. I mean, you made a lot of you should be proud of that, man. Heck, talk about it.
I was up there
I
with,
would.
a guy the Skeeter Swift. It was he went to the school, and he was before me, but he was an ABA and NBA scoring champion. I think he had like 6 or 8 ABA scoring titles in a row or something back then.
Right.
We had Redskins. Not Redskins, but just, professional football players. I saw this one woman, and she must have been about 6'7", a black woman. And I thought, wait a minute, I've seen her on ESPN. And it turned out she was a WNBA star.
Oh, wow.
And it was really funny. The coach, when I was there, the next year after I was a senior, was the famous Titans movie. Where the school was segregated. They were integrated. We had a lot of racial problems early on, especially when I was in 8th grade. But like with the track team, we kind of grew as a team. To the point where some of the biggest black guys in the school came to me and said, you ever have any problems? They were like football players and basketball players, and they were saying, you ever have any problems with guys, just let us know. We'll take care of them for you. And I said, look, nice. I don't need any help. They can't catch me.
Yeah, no kidding. I can run really fast, dude, when I have to.
They were, that's good. We developed a pride. We would go to track meets, and the first thing we were the only team that would do this. We'd be at these huge track meets, relay, and we started doing different things. Like we got the whole team in a line, and we would run the track in front of all the other teams when we get there, and we'd do this chant, while we're going around the track.
Mm-hmm.
And and it kind of, nobody else did it. No other teams did it. We did it.
Right.
And then the next thing, like the other ritual I had was I would bring the team over, and we would look at the medals that we were going to win, and I'd start pointing at the gold medals. See, those are the ones we're going to win right there.
Yep.
We can't let these other guys take those away. Those are ours. And I'd say it out loud. And some of the, like one of the coaches didn't like it. The guy that coached me, he thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of psyched the other guys out.
That's what I was going to say. You're psyching. That's my medal right there.
Yeah.
So that nice one right there. That's mine right there. Yeah. That's it. Whatever motivates you, man. It's a war out there. It's competition. I think too, Craig. We talked about this before that. If you had to cheat at something, it wasn't worth doing to begin with. Doing it right, doing it, however, going out there, fair play, in other words. But, be aggressive, be whatever. This whole thing about everybody gets a trophy drives me crazy. Just because I think it's good. It builds character, whether you win or lose. I mean, I've been on the losing side many times, and it just builds character. It builds your, I don't know if you want to, your feelings up a little bit. You get tough skin. It's okay to, I just never understood this.
I coached a lot of
crazy.
Yeah, a lot of kids, and it's a lot of it's psychological. I had the killer instinct.
Yeah.
I pumped. Before I was pumping myself up before every race.
Mm-hmm.
I started. An hour before I ran. Before the race, I would start thinking how I was going to run over those guys. And I would start thinking about how the last race went. Who I had to worry about. Most of the time I didn't have to worry about many people I ran against, but, I was always, anything can happen,
Yeah.
But, I would always, I would be, I would try to get an adrenaline rush before I ran, if I just felt normal, I was like, something's wrong, that I wanted to be nervous and ready to go, I wanted that nervous energy,
right.
And a lot of people, they couldn't deal with the nerves, I kind of embraced it, I knew that if I didn't feel it, I didn't get the energy.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I started running, it just, all the nerves went away, but it's like before, anticipation,
Well, it's adrenaline.
But,
it's just adrenaline.
But I understood that, and I'd coach these high school kids. They'd be scared to death the first match,
Yeah.
And they go, I'm sorry, coach. And I go, don't worry about it, man. It's your first match, just take a deep breath,
Yeah. Do your best.
And I said,
That's
slow
what you
down.
do.
Just slow down a little bit. You're kind of rushing and stuff, and I said, you got 30 seconds, take your time and just worry about that one point. Don't worry about who's going to win or lose. Just worry about that point ahead of you each time. That's it. Don't worry about anything else. Nothing.
Great
Try
advice.
to win each point. And if you miss it, don't dwell on it. You got to win the game. You still got chances, And people get all upset if they want to, miss a shot, and I go, you can still win the game. You don't worry about that. You got to win. You don't worry about how you look or anything else. You just win the point,
Yeah,
there was
it's
a
just
guy,
a reinforcement, Craig. A lot of them, the positive reinforcement, whatever, from a coach is everything. The kid can go out there and it doesn't matter as long as they do their best. That's what I've always said to my kids: do the best job you can do. Hey, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you've done your best, and that's. They just need to hear that. I mean, I don't know how it is because our kids aren't in school anymore. But
I always like competition, and I like competing in mellotecting. When I'd be out, I would like.
There is a silent competition every time we go out too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just part of the sport. I mean, everybody wants to beat the other guy, get the most stuff and the best stuff. There was this one guy, Howard, that he won $1.7 million on the lottery, a lottery ticket, and he was the luckiest guy I've ever seen. I mean,
you talked about him before. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
he dug at least 150 plates, and I've got maybe 30, or 29 or something. But I would dig all the small stuff. I'd always get like, never hardly dug 3-cent pieces or half dimes. He'd dig big stuff. He would dig bullets, and he wouldn't dig many buttons either. I'd get all the buttons, and he hunted too fast. But when you got a plate at 12 inches down the ground, that's a good signal. You're not going to miss that. If you go over it. But if it's a button, fairly deep, you can't just swing over it like that. But he just, I don't know, he just seemed to have that knack. That he just would go over stuff. And so I said, damn, I'd rather be lucky than good.
Yeah, no kidding, brother. No kidding. Ain't that the truth? It comes right down to luck anyways when you think about it. Getting right over that spot with that coil and that time and that depth, you know what I mean? It comes to a lot of it comes to luck anyway, but all you can do is everything you can do to make it that way.
Well, I remember I took him to this spot, and I think the first day he digs like, I think a spur.
Jeez,
and he's
I've
all
never done
bragging.
one of those either.
He's all bragging and everything.
Yeah.
And so we go down. It was down to those trenches, and so we go down. I said, "Well, let's hunt this other area. I've never been through here either." And we were like, I had only been there twice, I think, and took him up there, and so he gets a signal and digs a medium-sized, a baby U.S. belt buckle.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm like, oh man. So I dig a couple bullets up, and I think an eagle button, and then he goes in this other area, and it's all this deadfall and everything. And I thought, man, that looks good, that area.
Yeah.
So he goes over there and he hunts around, and he found like a bullet or something, and then he kind of starts walking away. So I said, "You finished with that area over there?" And he goes, "Yeah, there's nothing there." So I go over there and kick all the logs and stuff out of the way and start hunting. And first signal, I get a Virginia halfpenny.
Oh. Style, man. It's style the way you do it, and just you hunt differently than he does. Yeah.
But he was like haphazard. He never hunted the pattern, at all. He never gridded. Yeah. Just all over the place. He'd be in circles around people, and it's just.
Tom, I did that to Tom Bunch and Bill Pendergrass one time. Because we went out, and I'd never been to Tennessee hunting or nothing like that, and I'm walking, and I'm pretty soon I'm 100 yards into this field or something like that, and I turn around and I walk a different direction, and I finally stopped. I was like 2 or 3 hours. I'm like, okay, I come back into the truck, get something to drink, and Tom goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well," I said, "I'm staying right here now. I'm going to hunt this area right here." He goes, "Yeah, because I saw you wander off all the way down there and all the way." I said, "I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I just went into that mode and just swinging the detector. I'm not finding nothing." And, I'm like, I know there's stuff here and everything. And I finally, when I stopped and I did it the right way, I started finding 69 caliber round ball, the mini balls, whatever, in the road bed and stuff, or fatties, yeah. And at any rate, he goes, and then, what was funny was just 2 or 3 days later, I hunted with him again. And me and Bill Pendergrass turned around. Where'd Tom go? And we're looking around, and Bill tells me, he says, "Well, last time I saw him, he was walking over there towards the edge of the hill, the mountain, whatever, right there." And I said, "Okay, he must be around the curve right there." Hey, about 3 hours later, Tom comes down from the other side of the mountain down into the field that we were in. He'd walked all the way up along the ridge and everything. I said, "Oh man, where'd you go?" He goes, "I hunted all the way up through there." I said, "What'd you find?" He goes, "This." And he had a 22 casing and something else, Craig, all the way up over the hill. I mean, you go into these modes where you just, I guess you get lost in metal detecting or whatever. See, you just kind of get going. But I have a tendency to do it. Craig, you're more methodical than I am about that. You'll pick an area and
I had to
you're all over it.
I was the most impatient person you've ever seen, and I realized that I had to slow down. I realized that in the first 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
And part of it came from watching these guys that find everything. I started watching these, go, oh, that's that guy that been hunting for years, and we're in the same area, and I knew the guy didn't really know me or anything, but I knew who he was. Somebody said, oh, that's that guy, Doug so-and-so, and he's dug all this stuff over the years, and I'm watching the guy, and the guy's just, creeping along, And I talked to this other guy that knew all these people, and he was talking about this guy called the Creeper. And he said, there'd be like this big area, and be like 7 guys hunting, and 6 of them would run over the whole site, maybe finish that in a couple hours.
Right.
And this guy would be, still, maybe
10 feet in.
third of the way across the property, and then and then he'd still be out there hours after everybody'd finished, and going over the same areas they'd gone, and he'd come back and they would go crazy because he'd have a whole bag full of stuff, and that's the way he hunted. But there's a lot of people that don't want to hunt that way. That's why I started hunting by myself, because I hunt slow.
Well, that was a funny thing. We hunted together, and it's like, I don't think we made it 50 yards into the woods there. We hunted the trenches there. We hunted we didn't even realize it until after we were done. We said, man, we didn't really go off in different directions or nothing. We were just like talking, whatever, as we were hunting through there. But Craig would walk 30 feet away, or I'd walk in the other direction. But I mean, we always stayed in that general area hunting. We found stuff. It was just, that was a tough spot to hunt because Craig had hit it for how many years. But we had fun.
That's the area where I got the breastplate and the company letter G, and that big log there. That's right there. We were sitting near taking a rest one time, and Howard he got up, turned the machine on, and dug a large scent right in front of it.
Well, you did the same thing. We were taking a break, and you put your detector down and got that trigger guard at like 2 foot down in the ground.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. Right there by a fallen log. But yeah, I don't know what is that tunnel vision or thing going on. You just kind of wander out, and you don't even realize what you're doing. You're just kind of walking, because you're looking at the ground. And all of a sudden you stand up and you're across the field going, I have to go back and hunt that whole thing again because I'm just being stupid. But sometimes you just feel like hunting like that, I guess. I don't know. It's
it's funny, after Howard, he took me up there that first day because he owed me that spot, so I'd heard about this spot, but, he said that North Carolina button and U.S. buckle had been found there and a bunch of other stuff, and that people had given up on the place years ago, and there's nothing there. So I said, well, you've taken people a lot of good nowhere places, nothing's there places, and I've found a lot of good stuff, so let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the day, it's the first day, and I'm hunting around, and I found, I think, 2 bullets right off the bat, and then I got a company letter G, and he didn't like that at all. So, but he was hunting all over, and he just said, I'm not finding anything, and I'm not coming back. And so I said, well, you don't mind if he goes, nah, you can come here anytime you want, I don't care. So I said, all right. So I come back with the Bliss tool the next day, and I'm hunting that same area, and I went over, and there was this broken off tree, and I remember I'd swept all around that tree, and where it'd broken off and everything. So I go over there with the Bliss tool, and I get a repeatable signal, and I'm like, wow, that sounds good. And so I dig down 16 inches and pop a breastplate out. So I'm like, oh my God, So that hill that we came up, when we first walked over the creek.
Yeah.
And you come up, and there's that, it's like a, kind of a flat top hill there. But
yeah, it's all small vegetation. Yeah.
Yeah, all that was just, God, there was coins and bullets and buttons all in that side of that hill, but it was hard to hunt because there's all these sticker bushes.
Yeah,
and,
those damn bushes that drove me crazy. Now, Craig, that's
but,
another thing. You're hunting it just like I was, and I got shotgun shells, and you got the coins and buttons.
yeah, it's funny. That there's some places up there where it was so thick that there's got to be stuff still that in that area because that whole hill was full of stuff.
Well, I pulled that 58 caliber or whatever right there. It's like some of the pricker bushes kind of died off or whatever, and I was able to get about, I don't know, 3 or 4 foot past where you probably would have normally hunted, and I got that 58 caliber there, the 3-ringer or whatever. That kind of surprised me because it's the only thing it could have been, because I know the way you hunt is like I was going into that just trying to reach in there to see if I could find anything.
When I first hunted it, I just had the V3, and then I went up there with the V5 and found stuff. And then I remember the first time I took the V6 up there, I put the 15-inch coil on it, and I dug 4 eagle buttons in that right on that same area where we were hunting.
Jeez.
And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. The fourth one, I got it underneath a tree, and I angled the coil, and I could hear it, and it was under the tree, and I had to dig sideways to get it. But it was probably like 10 or 11 inches deep, but it was a good signal. But,
it just sometimes you have to go to such extremes, and that's, you got to get the relics. I mean, you got where they're at is where they're at. You can't move them around. It doesn't work like that. But it can be a difference between, Craig is digging coins and buttons, and I'm digging shotgun shells or whatever, and we're only 25 foot apart. Just that much distance, you can miss stuff. That's why I said, give me your hunted out spots. If you have a spot where you made a lot of great finds, and you just don't want to hunt it anymore, and you're not finding nothing anymore, I'll hunt it. No problem, because I know you missed something. Everybody does. Nobody's that good where you just get everything. It's just, you're coming with a different detector, different size coils, different whatever. If there was good stuff in the past, there's still good stuff there. You just got to find it. It's going to be harder.
Yeah. I'd pick these guys' brains all the time, and some people, a lot of people wouldn't tell you anything about any Confederate camps, even if they were hammered, but they would tell you a lot about Yankee camps. But I did learn about some Confederate camps that way. But I found stuff, just like you say. I found stuff in every one of them. And it was I got a kind of a reputation of going back to these spots but then it was funny. Sometimes I'd see some of these guys that were finding the rare stuff. All of a sudden I'd see them at the camps, and especially when they were being bulldozed.
You go back and say, "Oh my God, that's a hill I used to hunt 10 years ago," and look at their dinner with a dozer. Hell yeah, because you know what you found there before. Yeah, you're showing me what you did the same thing.
And I used to share information with them, and they'd tell me, stuff that they found in the past there, and it was like, God, it was mind-boggling. Like at some of these Confederate camps that, when they first got in there, it's just, all those buttons were practically brand new. They hadn't hardly been worn, before they were dropped in the early winter camp or fall. But it's like I got in there late, but I found Confederate buttons. I found 4 at the the 18th Georgia camp. It was part of the Texas Brigade, and it was on one side of Route 1 was like a South Carolina surface camp in the fall or late summer.
Right.
There was no hut sites, but then there was a dug-in camp at the top of the hill, and it was the 18th Georgia, and they were kind of poor troops. They had buck and ball, 69 caliber buck and ball, and but I got I think 3 Georgias and a South Carolina out of there, and 1723, mint condition Real, Pistorine, 2 Real Pistorine, and all kinds of other stuff, all kinds of bullets and flat buttons, and just see Liberty dime, half dime, 3-cent piece, Indian heads. There was still a lot of stuff there, but it just, you had to hunt hard to get it, and it was deep. And the same with the Texas camp. It had been hunted for 35, 40 years. I think they found it in 1955 or something. And they actually used airplanes. They flew over the area with airplanes to find it. And
it's like that, place over here, I'm hunting. It did start getting a little bit frustrating anyway. I mean, you go out 8 times on a property and hunt it 4 and 5 hours or whatever in this heat and not find anything more than shotgun shells and bullets, modern bullets. That's enough to put anybody through mental stress. Craig, it's like, what am I doing wrong here? It's like, 8 days, I know you have to work for it, but do I have to work this hard for a penny or whatever? You can't walk away. You walk away from the property. It's like, oh, that's 400 acres, and it's like, the history's there. Everything's adding up, right? It's got to be here. So yeah, I'll find it. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but it's not going to be easy. She ain't going to give it up, is what it amounts to.
Yeah.
It's the, my wife tells me that all the time with that property. She goes, that's a witchy property right there. She goes, she ain't going to give it up to you easy. You're going to have to work to find it. And that's if she wants you to find it. It's kind of like a voodoo hoodoo thing. I said, yeah, I'm starting to believe that. It only could be so many different things, Craig, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like in Stafford County, we used to hunt that a lot, and it was mostly, 99% Union mostly, but, because after the defeat at Fredericksburg, they camped over there for the rest of the winter, 150,000 troops, so there was just, every ridge had a hut site on it, for miles and miles and miles. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was just, there was so much stuff in the ground when the guys first started hunting. I mean, they told me it just, you can literally step on stuff, canteens and, all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
And they had these Metrotechs, which were, beat oscillator machines. Mm-hmm. And I heard guys claim that they could dig a bullet over a foot deep, and I go, no, I didn't say anything, but I was like, no way. They didn't have any depth. But these guys said when they first walked into some of these camps that, there was thousands of bullets in the ground in a camp.
Yep.
And they would dig, I don't know, 300-400 bullets, and you might get 1 to 4 plates in one day. There wasn't. Some people had gotten as many as 20 plates in one day. But there was so many signals, and you couldn't discriminate them. You couldn't tell which. You
just knew something was iron. There. Yeah, you just knew something was there.
But there was hardly any buttons found compared to nowadays. The machines can find those deep buttons. Back then, those machines couldn't find them, but they could find heavy lead and plates and iron stuff like bayonets and all the big stuff, especially the big iron stuff, was just basically gone, even with those kind of machines.
Yeah.
So and the plates, I've been on sites that have been hunted for years and dig a plate 2 or 3 inches deep. Mm-hmm. Most of them were, much deeper than that I've dug over the years. But, there's been several places where I've dug plates, I can't believe it's only 2 or 3 inches deep.
Well, I mean, I've had places like that too, Craig. It's a whole different kind of hunting, though. I mean, there's an old railway station, was really popular. Got photos of people being there and everything else. Got burned down. Somebody burned. I think it just burned down. But when you have a building or a house gets burnt, and then you're coming back, 100 years later or whatever, 90 years later, and try to hunt it with a metal detector, it can be absolutely daunting because you have to do what those guys did. Go in there with them, and pull out all that big iron, all that scrap metal, all that junk. And I've had to walk away from spots that I wasn't willing to do it because I couldn't see enough of the benefit, as far as, when I went to that, it used to be a gas station, right here in town. It had a area in the back. It'd always been grass or whatever. When they tore the building down and everything, I went in there thinking, okay, well, I'm finding a few things. And it's a pretty old building. It was here a long time. And I started finding wire and alternators and car parts, because you have to get all the junk out of there in order to get to the good stuff that was there, in the era that you wanted. And that Civil War site is a perfect example where they had to get the bayonets, the guns, the canteens, the garbage from after the war or whatever, from when they were there, or you would never get the buttons at all now, with having to deal with all that junk on the top. Because it sounds like that place was loaded with 120,000 or whatever troops. Yeah. I mean, that's what you deal with on a house site. I mean, these cellar holes. You guys hear them talk about cellar holes. I mean, there's so many nails, so much junk, but you gotta. It's probably getting to the point that there's stuff there. There's no doubt about it. It's just whether you have the experience or whatever know-how to make your metal detector work in that environment even a little bit better than everybody else. You're going to find stuff because it's there to find. You just got to get through all the nails and the garbage and the trash, and know how to do it, know how to set your detector to make it quiet or whatever. Different size coils, using a concentric coil. There's stuff to be found there. There's no place ever hunted out. It's just maybe not. It's getting fewer and farther between because all the easy stuff's gone. You don't have plates laying on top of the ground anymore. Not very many places. Craig.
Well, we used to try to find early war camps if we could, because they had the state buttons still.
Yep.
But by 1863, the Union Army started, restocking everybody with, they would get, brand new accoutrement and uniforms pretty often then, So they would just take what they had, throw it away, or burn it,
bury it, whatever. Bullets or whatever. I remember the 69 calibers you were telling me about. They didn't want to carry that heavy weight around all the time, so they dumped them and grabbed a 58 or whatever.
There was a place that Mike and I hunted years ago up this creek, and I remember we'd spent, 2 weekends, maybe 3 weekends. Kept going up further and further, and we found like one hillside had fired bullets in it. We knew we were close, but we just couldn't find the camp. And then the third week we found it, and found it hardly been ever hit much. We found a lot of stuff, but I remember years later, I guess the county bought that area, and it was part of the landfill, and it's going to be a landfill area, and there was a landfill nearby and a dump, and it was huge, and they were going to use that, to expand the dump, and then the county actually bought it, and then they found out there was all these Civil War camps on there, and so it's now a park, and they actually got some of the camps, lined out, and they cleaned them up so you can see where the hut sites were and everything.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, they brought in relic hunters to help them dig out the hut sites, to find artifacts, for the displays. And they got mad because they didn't find any state buttons. And they said that the relic hunters had dug these hut sites out and stolen all the state buttons. And I go, that is ridiculous. They was probably, they'd been lucky to find state buttons, but at that point, because they were all wearing eagle buttons. They were finding eagle buttons.
Yep.
But I
they're going to sort everything out and just take the state buttons and leave everything else too. I thought that was funny.
Years ago, when I was talking to these archaeologists at Manassas, we found 1,080 artifacts, and they'd found 2 bullets, with their technique in the same area.
Right.
And and I was saying, you can, with these relics, you can, inches as good as a mile missing it with a relic, with a metal detector even, So you don't know what's in the ground, and this is a tool, and I said, I can't believe that professional archaeologists wouldn't use a metal detector to at least find the spot to start.
Well, I think a lot more are using them than we think nowadays. But yeah, it makes sense because you're going to just dig 12 random holes somewhere, or would you at least like to know yeah, there's some kind of piece of metal down in here. Let's see what it is. It's man-made, obviously. It just common sense. Why wouldn't they? I think they're using them more.
Yeah.
You see them more on TV on these shows and stuff too. These documentaries and stuff. They're using them. It just they don't want
But
to.
there's a lot. There's
They
a
made it
lot
like a
of myths
bad omen or something like that. I don't know what the problem was
Yeah.
for a while.
I mean, we reached out to this, the head archaeologist, in, I guess in Virginia, I won't mention his name or anything, but,
Yeah.
he was saying that anybody that metal detects is a looter. Anybody that sees a arrowhead laying on the ground, even if it's a construction site, and picks it up, you're a looter, And just, he had this article in the paper, and I sent, a letter to the editor, and it never got printed. I wasn't nasty. I just,
Right.
put about. My main point was, these are artifacts that are going into the trash. They've lost their context as far as the archaeologist is concerned, but they're still artifacts, and I think they should be preserved. And that's the way relic hunters think. Most people that are into relic hunting,
I think my answer to him would be, Craig, and I'd turn around and look at him. Have you ever picked up a penny off the ground? Well, yeah. Then you're a looter. You know what I mean? You pick up an arrowhead, pick up a bullet. What does it matter? It's in the ground.
Yeah.
It's not hurting anybody. It's going to be lost forever. It's never going to be seen of again and rot away. I mean, what am I hurting by digging that up?
But he also said anybody that owns a metal detector is a looter. And
yeah, he can. I know who you're talking about. I really have no use for the guy.
But anyway, we found out somebody said they'd looked in his back room at his, he had a, big headquarters actually up in Fairfax, and but they said he had metal detectors back in his room. They could see him. And I said, "Oh,
must
really?"
Be a looter too, then, brother. Pot calling the kettle black.
But anyway, we had him at our meeting, Springfield Detectives Club, and he was all nervous, and we had to give him a drink of water, and we were saying, look, we're not going to, we're not going to do anything to you, we're not going to be, we just, we're metal detectorists. I was the president of the club. I said, look, we all metal detect as a hobby. Some of us like relics, some of us like coins. All of us like coins, but some of us are more into relics. But I said, we're getting permission on people, on private land and stuff, and we're not really doing anything wrong, and but we want to hear your side of the story and stuff, and whatever you want to talk about, and I said, we're not bad people. I said, we've got ex-police officers, ex-military people here. We got one guy that was inspector in the CIA in FBI.
Yep.
And he's a
doctors, lawyers, everything.
Big time. Yeah, there was a guy that was an executive for IBM, and he was a jerk. He was a rich guy. He was never found anything, and he would bring stuff in his pocket, and say, "Look what I found,"
And then this guy over here is a construction worker, and this guy over here is an auto salesman, and or with this lady, it doesn't matter, men or women don't matter, but it's. I've always thought it was really cool that so many people from so many different walks of life can gather together, have fun at a hobby, and be like best friends. Just hanging out, whatever, metal detecting, but they come from two different worlds or whatever, so far apart.
It's
cool.
It's like, it's like we got in kind of a friendly argument, and I can remain totally calm. I don't have that good. I don't have the problem of, I can, not be. I can talk calmly, in adverse, I actually make some people look bad because they get out of control, but I can maintain control, But
hey, Craig, I work on my temper every day now. Okay, I just want you to know that. Craig said I've read me in more than once.
I went up against 15 archaeologists, and they were shocked at how much I knew about their profession. About how they don't make an hourly wage. They don't have a real job. They didn't like that, but they weren't run on a contract, and that was what they were doing right there. They had a contract to do that job, for the Park Service.
Makes sense.
I said, look, I got a degree from George Washington University. I'm not stupid. I know what's going on.
We know our hobby. We know our we know what we're doing, and we educate ourselves. Come on now.
But I said, archaeology is not like a super real science like some other sciences are. It's a little bit different. But I said, here you're using us, and you're finding out how much stuff's really in the ground and stuff. I think you're in shock over this.
Yep.
And they go, but anyway, we went at it for about an hour and a half, and it calmed down to the point where they were agreeing with me on a lot of the stuff. They were.
Why would you lie? It's just like
they asked me if I knew the archaeologist at Alexandria, and I said, well, I knew the one woman. I did a talk, and she did a talk at the Masonic Temple, and I met her, and she actually came over and looked at some of the artifacts and actually asked me what some of them were, and I was kind of, and I thought to myself, they don't even know what some of these things are, that I dig up.
Yeah.
But she made $65,000 a year because I read about it.
Mm-hmm.
They had Alexandria was the first city in the country that had archaeologists embedded in it. Part of the bureaucracy, and they made decisions on. They would close down construction sites and stuff, and like if I got permission, some of the guys. I got so where I would approach some of these people and ask them, and I'd say, I'm not going to tell the archaeologists or anybody in the city anything. And they go, oh, okay, you can hunt then. That's the way it got,
Right.
They didn't want anybody hunting, even if it was going in the trash, it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I have a problem with.
I mentioned that when I was talking to these people. I said, why is it such a big deal? Why can't we save some of this stuff? It's going to go in the trash, like you say, anyway. It loses its context.
Well, you talked about the arrowheads. The arrowhead thing when the museum dumped a bunch of arrowheads out in the ocean. I mean, what would have hurt if Joe Blow down the road found one on the ground?
Well, actually,
if you're going to throw a whole boatload away.
Well, actually, they were scrapers, and there was enough scrapers to fill a classroom. Wall to ceiling to floor. Right.
But what I'm saying is, why are they stopping other people from picking them up off the ground, or thinking it's better to leave it, don't touch them if you're going to dump them?
Because they're a bureaucracy and they're in control. They
think they're in control.
You see it in the government all the time. They abuse their power all the time. My God, I saw this thing the other day where somebody from they had some kind of commerce department. Or something like one of the bureaucracies went on this junket to, I think to California, and they hired a mind reader as part of the party. And they had $44 breakfasts.
Oh my God! Better be steak and something.
and one of the senators goes, "I don't have $45 breakfasts. I've never had one in my life. What the hell did you have?"
That'd be like us, Craig. We've never had a $45 breakfast. I
don't think I've ever had a $45 dinner.
Yeah, I've had a $45 dinner, but it was well worth it. Let me tell you, a big old steak or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. It just, God. The first 2 foot of ground, Craig. Most of the time, I mean, not all the time, but I see them scrape the ground a foot down before they start looking for stuff. You know what I mean? Well, the first 1.5 to 2 foot is where a lot of the relics we look for are at. And wouldn't it be nice if we could help you out and say, you know what, we found a pile of buttons over here, and we found a lot of square nails and other iron stuff. So that's probably the blacksmith shop there. And, we could actually help you find more stuff. Duh. Not dig in stupid places where there's nothing at anyways. Go to the spots where there are stuff so you can actually date it all the way back. And they're looking for pottery, pieces of pottery, pieces. They'll take buttons and stuff like that. But, they're looking for, the different soil levels, what's in the different soil levels, all these different things. Well, it's not what we do. We hunt for relics. We hunt for items. And then if you're going to get rid of that first foot and a half, let us metal detect it. What's it going to hurt? It's just going to give you more information to do your job, and you're getting it free. So what could be better? You know, they've always made it such a like a dark art or something like that. It's like get it.
It's like I was helping them, recover targets. Right. I would check the target and pinpoint it and stuff, and I was, we were digging a lot of nails up, and I was like, after about the fifth one, I said, man, this is another stupid nail, and I said, let's just not dig these, they're not even from the Civil War. And so they go, what do you mean? And I have big round tip nails. They're not
regular nails.
They're probably, maybe 1920s or 30s or 40s or something, but they're not, they're not even that rusted really to the point where I don't even think, they may be from the 50s or 60s even.
Right.
But that's it. And they go, well, how did they get here? And I said, there was some fence that went along here. We'll all find them all in a row here. It's got to be like some fence along here or something.
Yep.
And the fence rotted. I mean, you can almost see where there was, it was on the edge of a road or something. There was probably a fence along this area. And so they got all in a huddle over it, and then they came back and said that was probably what happened. Like they discovered it or something. I was like, whatever. But, I pointed out, I said, a lot of the stuff that you guys think are, that are secret information or information other people don't know, we know it. We already, if you're any good at metal detecting, just by doing it, you learn this stuff by accident.
It's sight reading. It's knowing where stuff was, so you know where to look. I mean, it's common sense. Really, for us, it is.
When I first started, I knew nothing. I didn't know all this crap was in the ground. I didn't know all these nails were going to be affecting the targets. I probably missed a ton of stuff the first few years I metal detected.
Well, Craig, we talk about this all the time.
The machines weren't that good back then.
Yeah.
Like they are nowadays, but. We were still finding stuff,
And some of those old school ways that we learned back then apply again now. I mean, things, like these, you hear talk about ferrite ground balancing stuff. I mean, for you guys in the hobby for a while, you know what this is. But I mean, we're talking people, we got all levels here. We got people that just bought metal detectors. We got people that have been using them for 50, 60 years or whatever. And we got everybody in between. So it's really hard. Craig and I get frustrated with ourselves because like, we talked about such and such, and those guys probably don't want to hear about that anymore. But we got to think about it. Somebody hasn't heard it, at all because they haven't been in the hobby. So maybe they'll pick up on something and remember it and make it, make their hunting experience better. And I don't know how many times, Craig or even when Loy was calling in or Mark or whatever, it does, they'll mention something and it'll bring a whole nother meaning to what the site you're hunting. It'll apply that way and give you a better idea of what you need to do. And I've been hunting for close to 20 years anyways, but you got to have that information because it's another tool for your arsenal. People get into this mode where you only can use this detector or only brand B. Use whatever metal detector you can get your hands on because they're all part of your arsenal. They don't have to be brand oriented. I mean, brand A might, a lot of people own them and they like them and they work great. But don't give up on brand B because brand B got there somehow too, and it must do something a little bit different. Or, every one of these detectors, we could take, Equinox and a Bliss tool and a Deus and a whatever and hunt the same spot with them ourselves, one at a time. And some will find something, some won't. Or whatever, find other stuff. Craig's in his yard.
My first seat of Liberty Dime I found with a Big Bud Pro bounty hunter.
Don't beat up, as customers, I should say, or as, I guess, Greg, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, as people that are buying this stuff, whatever, and using this stuff. Hey, what's it hurt you to? If you find a good deal on a metal detector and you do your research and it has some good points to it, get it. What the heck? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to turn around and sell it to somebody else, and they're going to have to make a decision whether this is something that's going to be useful to them or not, or keep the thing. I don't know. It's just, don't make it like you have to be brand oriented so much and miss out on something that you really want to try, another detector you really want to try. And I think that's, Craig and I talked about that before, and Craig, the sponsorships and stuff like that. I just won't do it. I just don't want to do something like that because I got wrapped up in that and feeling like, we were talking about the maintenance service and stuff on the Bliss tools and stuff. As a distributor, I mean, that's, I only go by what the maker or owner of the company's doing. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to play that game. I don't want to be tied down to one thing or feel like I'm tied down.
Yeah,
he never put that on me. He never said I couldn't use, but it's like, you're using when it's good. I still use the metal detector, but I don't want to be so brand oriented and not be able to use other ones because that's what makes me good at what I do. I mean, I know other machines. Well, I know how they work and stuff.
It's kind of taking the pressure off us. I mean, I was getting tired of it, and I knew I wasn't going anywhere. But you hung in there for a while. But,
I did. I gave it a college try.
It was just a tough business, and
a lot of us get put into that.
But
yeah,
after that, I decided, heck, I can do anything I want. I don't want to, And then I was approached a while back about, becoming a team member for a major, metal detecting company, and I thought about it, but then, it's the same thing. I said, I wouldn't be able to, I'd have to start basically a whole new YouTube channel over and only be on that machine. And what else? I couldn't wear anything or I mean, it just be, and the pressure's on because I talked to several of the guys. One of them called me and was, told me, he wanted help, and I said, I'll give you help anytime,
Yeah.
And
We're
he said, he said, they're putting pressure on me, do all kinds of stuff. And I said, I know what it is. And he goes, you do? What is it? And I said, they want you to have a YouTube channel with 1,000 subscribers.
Right.
And he goes, oh my God, you're right. And I go, yeah. I said, I've heard this from other guys.
It takes the fun out of it, Craig, and that's the thing.
A couple of the whites guys, and they haven't been the same. You don't hear about a couple of them that, I just don't hear from them as much either. It's like, once you're on one machine and somebody else is using other machines, you don't really associate with them, I guess, that much. Because they're a rival company or something. But I don't know.
It just makes it not fun. That's what it is, Craig. It made it not fun anymore. And I got to enjoy what I do. I got to, this, it's been a good roller coaster ride anyways as we go along. But, the adventure of it all or whatever it's going to lead to and done a lot of good things. But still, I don't want to be under somebody's thumb.
It's like we were talking this morning, this podcasting is, we're all energized now with this thing, it's like, it's almost, it's like with me, with like YouTube, it's kind of like falling apart, it's like, it's not the same as it used to be. And it seems to be getting worse every other month or so, but
it's on crutches.
But I've been doing all this research on this podcasting, and it is like crazy how it jumped in 1 year. 2018, the advertisers weren't not that keen on it, and because it was nothing visual.
Right.
But Apple released the analytics, and all of a sudden, like 2019, it's jumped like crazy. And I was telling Derek, I said, there's a guy named Joe Rogan that he's a top podcaster, and I think he has 10 million people or 5 million people listening to his show or more.
That's a big show.
And I guess I've heard of him, but I don't know if I've ever watched him or anything. I know he's on YouTube too, but but anyway, he makes like $10 million a year, and they think at least $5 million off of this podcast. He makes each show. He makes $30,000 off the ad.
Crap! You didn't tell me that part of it. I don't think that's a lot of money.
And get this, he does 5 shows a week. So
that's what I call viral, baby.
That's $150,000 a week. That is damn good money.
That was like, what the heck? Yeah.
So I mean, that's $600,000 a month. God.
Hey, Craig, you remember what I was telling you? I guess the $1 a day wouldn't impress him much, right?
Well, I mean, we're starting to get a little bit more than $1
well,
a day.
yeah, we are, but not, but yeah, $30,000 a show. Oh my God, that'd be like crazy.
When they started looking at that, when these the big boys started looking at these statistics, the analytics that Apple finally released them, and Apple's got the biggest market, on it. But when they looked at it, they found that people listen to the podcast from beginning to end. There's like 85% of the people listen all the way through, and it's got a long form, 90-second commercials. So, but people don't seem to be bothered by that.
No.
And like they are on YouTube video, the visual stuff seems to bother people more than the audio part. But it's a huge growing. Spotify just bought two podcasting firms or whatever for $300 million. So that's serious money. I mean, that means that they think they're trying to
I like it because we still have choices. As listeners, we have choices in what we listen to. We don't have to be a slave to just a station. Like a regular AM/FM station where, if you want a certain song, you go to it. You want a certain show, you can go to it. It just makes
I'll tell you
nice.
another thing that turned the advertisers positive on podcasting was, with podcasting, there's certain things you do that you can't, watch videos while you're doing it. And one of them is exercising, and another one is driving in your car.
Right.
Or, maybe, on the metro or on a train or, flying an airplane or whatever, but you can still, do a podcast. So the podcasts are more podcasts are listened to a car than any place else combined.
Yeah, mobile was like 60-some% or something like that. Mobile devices.
I think I've heard 57%. Nobody really knows for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going by different sites.
But that's what Nielsen is trying to now coordinate these podcasts, and it's almost like 99% of the kids from 9 years old to 25, I think, are into podcasts. Most people have 5 podcasts they listen to regularly.
Really?
Yeah, that's another statistic. What is it? People, I don't know. It's like, people are, doing a lot of exercise and they listen to podcasts instead of,
Well, it does fit into our hobby so much, Craig, because, we do a podcast about metal detecting, but we also talk about the guys out there making videos, the people with Facebook pages, we're bringing that information to people too through our show. I mean, just like, the newscasters do there, and fishermen and hunters may have one, whatever, it's bringing information out to the front. So advertisers, I mean, it's a good place to advertise, but if they can do it in a kind of a tasteful way, rather than television. I can't stand television, regular TV, and a lot of you know that about me.
There's another category that really does good on podcasting is reviews of products and stuff.
Right. That remember that one too.
Cooking is a good one on there. Supposedly recipes and stuff.
But you can pick and choose, but the advertising part of it, I mean, everybody needs a break from it. I mean, we put a little. Well, they put it in. I just tell them where to put it at. But the commercial at the beginning is a minute, middle of a minute, and an end of a minute or two. But it's like, okay, it's no big deal. I can take a drink of coffee. I can do whatever. I want to listen to Loy's show, Relics Radio or something like that. It doesn't bother me because I'm just kind of doing other stuff at the same time, whether it's on chat with the guys or I'm doing some other kind of computer work or whatever here at the house, because I listen more at my house than I do on the road, sort of. I mean, I've been getting more and more on the road instead of just putting the MF on. I just put a podcast and plug my cell phone in to the stereo, and I can play a podcast and that's how I listen to a lot of the other shows, because I just don't have the time to sit down, and I have to do something else, Craig, is what it is. I have to multitask, because I can't just sit around and listen to podcasts all day or watch videos all day.
Yeah.
See, with podcasts, you can do other stuff. With videos, you can't, because you can't, visualize while you're trying to do other things. But I mean, we are on
you can listen
these different
to while you're mowing the grass or doing yard work or whatever, or maybe you're exercising, like walking or running or something. You can listen to one.
I don't want you doing it when you're metal detecting, Craig. Absolutely
no.
not.
Well,
maybe
I have
you don't have to do that.
One earbud in and the other
one earbud, but one yeah. Hey, you know what? You'll never. You know what? It'd be us to try to do that.
I heard something. Got to pause the podcast.
I'll start doing a show while I'm out metal detecting. There we go. I have Pauline carry my laptop behind me and have my headphones on and an earbud or another set of headphones on for the metal detector. We'll do a show like that. Yeah, it would work out real good. But I was just surprised that we, over the last couple of weeks, I looked at like iHeartRadio and podcast AMP playback and Castbox stuff. I didn't even know that some of these places were like, I call them formats or whatever, or podcast formats, whatever, different companies like Spreaker and everything else. But that we had a following on some of these different channels, whatever. As far as like I think Castbox, one of these ones on here, we had 2,900 followers on their base or their format. I didn't even know about them, and they're from like Japan and Russia and this and that. I mean, all these different countries, but I didn't even know about it, Craig. And
I'm looking at
what the heck.
Spotify has a large customer base, and they said
Yeah.
it currently includes 96 million paying customers and a total of 207 million users.
Yeah, because with Spotify, you could pay not to have commercials and stuff like that. I think that's what it is, and you could buy. I'm sure you could buy music from them too.
They're looking at spending up to 500 million this year to bolster their podcasting business.
Jeez. That's the next big thing.
Yeah, and there's some companies that charge like up to $25,000 for a placement on some of these things, and then there's let's see.
It gets nuts with all the. There's so much information.
They got a list of the top 25 most downloaded shows. The Daily, the Joe Rogan Experience, Stuff You Should Know, Fresh Air, Dave Ramsey Show.
And see, with those shows too, it just builds them up
Murder.
even more, Craig, because it's like they're saying these are the 10 most watched. I mean, I don't know one way or another these guys. I mean, I heard of some of them, obviously, but
here's one. Freakonomics Radio. I've read a bunch of their books pretty well.
Yeah,
they got Stuff You Missed in History Class.
that's probably a pretty good one.
What was the Armchair Expert?
I like that.
Dr. Death.
There you go.
The Daily Show. The Morning Toast. Business Wars. Conspiracy Theories. The RFK tapes. These are all in the top 25.
I didn't hear Coffee with Derek and Craig on there, so I guess we're not making $30,000 a show.
Boy, you got to get. We're just getting started. Give us time.
I know it's never been about it. It's just about having fun. That's what it's been for Craig and I. We've been doing this for 2015 on here. I can't remember where we even started at, Craig. I mean, it's not been tons of time. But.
Back in the primitive days when it was like in the wilderness, remember how it crashed all the time? And,
I got Mixler. Back in the early Mixler days. Oh my God. Craig thought I was going to slit my wrist or something.
And look how it's exploded just since 2017, 2018. A lot of these advertisers just weren't real gung-ho on it from what I'm reading, but all of a sudden this thing's taken off, and Apple was making a ton of money off of it, so all of a sudden they're gonna the advertisers were anyway, but it's become like if Spotify is putting $300 million into buying out, and they're going to put another $500 million this year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's getting up toward $1 billion you're,
That's
buying
money.
up. So there's a reason for it. They're liking this platform.
Yeah. But it's a good. It gives the customer or the listener the choices. That's what we're missing out on a lot of times with the other AM, FM, or whatever, even TV. I mean, you have no choice. I mean, they make it sound like you can pre-record.
Yeah,
Then
it's like
you
I'm
can't
going to
fast
check
forward.
out.
And, I don't know.
I'm going to check out of some of these, other stations I'm seeing on here because
Yeah.
I've never even heard of some of these before. I've heard of Freakonomics. I've read a lot of the books and stuff, and it's based on economics.
Oh yeah, I find myself listening to stuff that I probably wouldn't even really thought about before. To say, you know what, that sounds interesting for some reason. I'll put it on for a while. I mean, I guess our generation or whatever is the same. I'm not above listening to a cooking show, for goodness sake. I mean, I like to cook anyway, so why not listen to them? Maybe I'll come up with an idea, and then I'll go to something else. But if I'm going down the road, or I'm just working around the house, I can plug it into the speakers there, and I can listen to it in the house here or outside even. I throw podcasts on just about any time. I figure everybody else about the same way anyways. It's something.
Well, I like it on the Spreaker app on my iPad. I can, it's got a little menu, and then all the shows I listen to are already on there, and you just click, and another click, and you're listening to the show. So it's real easy.
Well, that's why I always tell everybody to like and follow the show, or all the shows, really, Relics Radio, whatever. If you follow them, like them and follow them, then if they decide to do a show sporadically,
we get
notices.
We get recommended higher on the list and different things like that. I
was just saying, just keeping the listener informed. Like All Metal Mode, I think it went up, and I get a message. Oh, hey, or email. Hey, All Metal Mode's doing this show, or Relics Radio's doing that show. It just reminds me, so I don't have to sit there and even think about the time, because I know it's going to pop up on my phone anyways. I hear ding, okay, I got to look at it. And it's made it so easy for a listener standpoint to get the shows that you want. You just follow them, and they'll notify you. It does it automatically through Spreaker. At least through that format, and I'm sure it does it for iHeartRadio and everything else too, because I get messages. I follow my own show, obviously.
It was another trend I saw where a lot of the kids, the younger, from like 9 to 25-year-olds, they tend to share their podcasts with other kids, and their, and that's how a lot of people are finding out about this stuff. It's through their own peers. I thought that was an interesting one, but it's they're trying to find a way to push this even further out there. But I joined like 3 Facebook groups. 2 of them I got to be approved, but they were closed groups, and one of them you have to have a podcast, and so I put the one we have up on it, so I should get in it. But they got all kinds of tips and tricks and stuff, that these guys are pretty good on. That supposedly they got about 100 or so experts that have been doing this a while, so maybe I can learn something off those.
Yeah, that seems to be your end of it, Craig, on like the Facebook pages and stuff. You like doing it, I know. I mean, as far as stuff like that, but me, I just don't have the patience for it. You got patience.
I've always researched stuff. I've always researched topics, and
right.
If I don't know something, all of a sudden it's like with YouTube. I can actually use their search engine to find videos on stuff, and I just like doing that. One topic will run into another. It just happens. And I like doing things like that. But
you try to get Craig to use a computer like a MacBook Pro and have him try to do this kind of stuff that I do. He'd sooner choke me out before he does that.
Yeah,
all this it's just you gain certain skills, so to speak, and Craig does a research, and I deal with this.
I love the iPad. And I love my iPhone. And that's all I want to use. I use the MacBook Pro for a few things, but it sits there pretty lonely most of the time. But
you just send it to me. I could use another one. Yeah.
Oh, and my Apple TV. That's where I watch YouTube on, is my TV.
Yeah.
So it's funny. TV is now off the internet. Not
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago I was paying $100 and some a month for cable. And
Yep.
I just said, I like Tennis Channel and maybe one of the news shows, but that's about it. And I'm not paying $100 to watch that.
Right. No kidding.
If it comes comes to worst, I just won't watch it.
Yep. It's just it gets, I don't know, with the computer part of it, Craig. For me, it's not that bad. I mean, I talk about sometimes I spent hours on there, but when you think about it, we're doing a podcast radio show with a MacBook Pro, a Blue Snowball mic, a set of headphones, and you're talking on a cell phone with a headset. That's what we're doing our podcast with. I mean, it's not 100% by any means, not by but it sounds good, decent. It's very mobile. For me, I started doing the math on this because the other guys have great systems. I mean, I'd love to have, but
yeah,
I'm not wanting to.
Too.
Yeah, with cost wise, I couldn't afford to go out and spend $1,000 on a microphone. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'll make no $1 million a year, or whatever. You got to pick your, not sacrifice. If you want to do this and you want to buy that mic, it's got to be your thing. You got to like doing it. You got to know you're going to do it. With me, I decided, I need to. If I want to keep this mobile like I want it, this is the only way I know how to make it happen. So I've learned how to download these things and get this stuff to work, and RSS feeds and all this crazy stuff to me, because I don't know it. It's just like making videos. I mean, that's a whole nother realm right there, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of time to edit a video properly. And I don't even do it right, probably, compared to some of these younger guys that are gals that are doing it. They do it so easily and it looks so good. But you got to be into something a lot. And
they spend they take 5 hours sometimes to make one video.
Yeah.
And I can do a video and put it together in 15 minutes usually.
I just didn't want to have the expense, Craig. I couldn't afford to buy a soundboard and everything. I have, I do DJ and stuff, but not.
They just came out with a new iMovie with green screen and split screen and picture and video and all kinds of stuff like that. And you can,
But if you're, what I was getting at more or less is you're going to do all that, making videos and everything, Craig. In our hobby, I don't want to carry around, because I looked into this. These big stands, a lot of these streamers have this full setup, there's GoPros and microphones and extra batteries and gyro things and everything else. If you want that, that's great. If it works for the kind of videos you're doing, great. But I shoot one out in the field, and I'm digging in the dirt, dropping stuff, sweating all over myself, whatever. It's real deal. I don't want to carry around this 30-pound thing around with me. I used to do a tripod that's even hard for me to carry, around with me and wanting to. So, I try to make stuff so it's still fun for me to do. Because if you take all the fun out of something, it becomes work. And that's what it became with on this. Craig, remembers me ranting about certain things of making this computer itself do something it probably, I don't know, wasn't exactly made to do. Because, at the time.
Well, we were kind of kidding about you were trying to, make it too perfect.
Yeah, well, I want it to sound good for people. I don't want to sound, have it sound all screwed up and dropping and like we used to deal with in the Mixler days. And they've probably improved that by now. It's been years, but at the time it was like, you couldn't get a good connection, and then it would fade out and fade in. You couldn't adjust the volume right. It was just nuts. And it's probably a lot of it on me. I don't know. I mean, I only know what I know from.
I think it was on their servers myself.
Yeah. But with this, they've made it so easy at Spreaker to do this that. I got a soundboard right here. It's not extravagant. I'd like to see them have a better wrap their minds around using the, when callers call in for me to adjust just their, I don't know, with some kind of equalizer. I probably could do this with an external mixer board or whatever. I don't want to do that. I'd like to have it on there just to adjust their volume, or maybe it's really tinny sounding their voice through the signal, to be able to adjust that for the listener. That that's the kind of stuff I would like to see on on this particular, I call it
Yeah,
soundboard on Spreaker. But other than that, they did a great job.
one of the things I saw is, these professional groups, they got like a box, where you soundproof box thing,
Oh yeah, I ain't worried about that.
They have the expensive equipment, to make sure the sound's, perfect. But I just,
I got my feet up, Craig. I got my little laptop
I think if you don't,
here. Great.
I think if you don't hear static, then it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as the voice is reason. I mean, yeah, obviously people know you're calling through a landline or whatever through Skype. But, you can tell that, but it's not a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal. I've listened to a lot of shows where you don't know what the caller's going to call in with anyways. And, it used to be a lot poorer sound on some of the other formats we used to be on to be able to adjust it on my side. But, it's a real deal. I mean, I'm sitting here like you guys are with my feet propped up. Got my laptop table, got the microphone here, got me something to drink, a beverage of my choice apparently, and and I got my vape pen, and I'm sitting here having a show and talking to my friends, so to speak. And I mean, I like to keep it simple. I like to keep it fun. I don't want to be stuck in a room and padded and don't make any noise, and oh my God, don't let a dog bark or something like that. What you see is what you get, or what you hear is what you get. It frustrates. I think it frustrates me more than it does Craig. I just want things to sound good, and that's it. But I like to keep it that way. And it's but you have to battle with this stuff, these apps, and this. I don't know. For me, that part of it, and downloading stuff, and it's only accessible by PC, not by or Windows, and not Apple. Or whatever, I can't use that program. I know where there's a program and I can use. What can I use to work with my MacBook? And I had to find it and I have to search it. And then there's no video on how to make it do just what you want it to do. So you're having to learn something else. This hobby, or really life. I mean, what you do as a hobby, man, it can open up a lot of doors for you. I mean, Craig, being in tennis and everything, and now metal detecting, a lot of opportunities come up. You just never know when they are going to come up. It's part of the adventure, the fun, and that's what I've always looked at it as, Craig. I've learned more, met more people, and learned more stuff in this hobby than anything else I've ever done. And I've done a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good people out there, and there's a lot of information to learn about. And you're learning about history, what could be better, in a fun way. You couldn't get me to crack a history book in high school.
It's definitely been a positive experience in my life. I mean, I can, I've learned, other things besides, just the metal detecting and, the history. And I remember reading, people, Union and Confederate diaries, and you hear the politics from the horse's mouth, so to speak, about, what they really thought.
Right.
And it's quite different from what you hear nowadays, in the real history,
what we're taught,
the real history.
Yeah.
But you also have two different perspectives, one from each side, and that's the real history, those are the people that did the real work.
They
lived
it.
They
lived it.
Yeah, and their lives were on the line, and
right.
Their families and everything else, and so it's fascinating to me, that it's totally they thought, I think, more logical and more common sense back then than they do nowadays.
And I understand certain situations.
In a lot of ways.
So many people want to judge them. They're judging an era, a point in time
a lot
where
of those
things were
people
a
had a lot
way,
more integrity and stuff mattered back then, and honor and loyalty, and people nowadays, common sense doesn't seem to matter anymore.
What gets me, Craig, is the amount of the lack of accountability. That is one of my, I guess it's a pet peeve, whatever you want to call it. I can't, I feel like that is
it's also,
not all gone out the window, but it's.
A lot of those people believed in hard work, because otherwise you didn't make it. You had to work hard. And, nowadays there's a lot of people who don't, think you have to work.
Just values, all the values, the way we do stuff. I mean, there was when I was growing up, I was probably one of the only ones. I mean, that generation, whatever, that actually Dad went to work and Mom stayed home with the kids or whatever, and took care of, make sure they were okay. Dinner was every night at this time. but I was a lucky one. My dad was able to work the same job for 29 years. He enjoyed it, and us kids were raised, the best they could, and but it's not like that for everybody nowadays. For definitely, I mean, you got mom working, dad working, kids working, trying to support a family, trying to pay bills, trying to do this. It's not the same as it was even back in the 70s, and you're talking 1800s, Craig. My goodness, I mean, we had a lot of bad stuff happen too, but I mean, the way we, as a society, where I would like to think it was a lot better back then.
You didn't have. Well,
at least it was black and white. It was black and white. You knew you had to do this, or you didn't survive. You had to,
right.
Being polite to people it was the way
people
it was.
had a plan. Otherwise, they didn't live.
Well,
but,
morals and stuff like that matter more than they do nowadays, I think. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but I mean, it's what you look around and see. The news and everything. That's why I don't watch the news. I want a downer all the time. I'd watch it, I guess. I mean, I watch for a weather report. That's about it. I'm just tired of seeing negative all day. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, there's a lot of good things that happen. But, and I live down here, and it's like, it sounds, when you watch the news in the morning here, I see it at the Post every once in a while, and at the VFW. It's like, somebody shot somebody here, somebody beat up somebody there, somebody robbed this. This is all coming out of Orlando or Tampa or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, why can't they say something good? There's got to be some good stuff there too. And I know there is, we all do. But it's like, it gets so dang frustrating. And why can't we key on some better positive stuff, That's not the world we live in, I guess, but in a perfect world. Yeah, we got all over the gambit tonight. I tell you, we're all over the place. But it all, we just bring up stuff. This show leads wherever it leads to. We just never know where it might be. I don't try to guess anymore, Craig. But probably wrap it up for tonight. It's 10 o'clock. But I do plan on doing a Monday morning show, Craig. If you're up for that,
fine.
That way you guys can check that out. And we try to do a 30-minute show or something like that, more topic-based. And we're still getting used to that idea of it. But, just we're going to pick a topic and do it. If you have one, too, and I just started this thing up. I don't know if it's going to work right or not through Gmail. I started up an email, Craig, earlier today. It's hmd.radio1@gmail.com. I should put it down on chat. If you have an idea or something for a morning, you want to hear about a topic, whatever, doesn't matter. You can email me over there, or you can put it on the comment section here at Spreaker, doesn't matter. But I just wanted to start up that email.
Or you can put it on the Hardcore Metal Detective page on Facebook.
Yeah, the Facebook page for Hardcore Metal Detective, great. But yeah, stuff that's going on. I did see on here, and I wanted to mention it before we stop the show tonight, that Gavin McGregor said there's I believe it was it's called Metal Detecting World Champion. Shoot, Gavin, if you could put that up again, brother, because I panned past it. I think it's a hunt or something like that. You guys feel free to put that up on Hardcore Metal Detecting Facebook's page if it can help you out, or your Facebook pages, your YouTube channels, that kind of thing. If you have something you want people to see, put it on there. I don't know how many people will see it, but I know we supposedly have like 25,000 followers, and it does bounce around a little bit. So, hey, get you a few more views, a few more subscribers, and make a new friend. That's all that matters. So, guys, feel free to do that. Craig, what else?
I try to, if I find an interesting video or, guy's starting out a channel, he has, pretty good video, I'll put it up there.
Right.
Help people out. But, people are always searching for good videos to watch. And that's another thing I do. I always like, as part of my day is, I spend the morning, watching videos, trying to find, see if there's something new out or, whatever.
Well, I know that, I saw it on here too, and forgive me, Loy, I know that you're going to a Relic show or something like that too, and you're going to do a show from there.
Chattanooga Relic show. I think it is.
Yeah. Lloyd from Relics Radio is going to do a show from there. I can't remember. Guys, Lloyd does Relics Radio, obviously, and then.
Didn't we have that guy on there a couple of years ago that was involved in that?
No, that's from the Memphis.
Oh, that was Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis, Tennessee does a huge World War II, and I have it up on our Facebook page, Craig. I just can't remember the name of it now. Oh my gosh. It's like the military and Civil War relic show or something like that, and I should remember it. I just have a problem with that kind of stuff. But yeah, we did a show with them, and they do a big shindig up there in Memphis, and they have tanks there from World War II, and they have a guy that has Sharps rifles display, and they do teaching there and firing cannons off and all that kind of stuff up there. It's been going on for 50 years, over 50 years. So, and I think that's the kind of thing that
I think it's the longest running one. Then,
yep.
I think
there'd be a lot of, and there's so many products and so many different, authors of books and everything else. You never know what you're going to get there. It's always a fun time for pretty much.
Yeah,
everybody.
They got like tanks and all kinds of stuff. They were running into insurance problems, I think, at one point. That was kind of hurting people, but. These are all collectors that,
right.
got all kinds of vintage equipment from the war, from wars all the way, I think they go all the way up to the Vietnam War now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they do. They go all the way through, I think, Gulf War and everything. They're still, they do a good job of it. I mean, I'm thinking this Chattanooga thing, and I just can't remember the name of it, Lloyd. Sorry about that, brother. But at any rate, he put that up on our Facebook page, too, if it helps you all out, get a few more people doing. Here it is. It's the he said he's doing the American Digger Relic show. That's on Monday nights, and then he does Relics Radio and Relic Roundup and History Seekers. He's going to be in Chattanooga on the 27th and 28th of July for that Relic show. So he'll probably be doing a live show from there. I think that's what he said, and he said, call in Lloyd. Oh, he wants us to, we're going to keep the show going on for another hour. At any rate, Craig. I'm getting tired. At any rate, no, putting up
another
the shows.
Cup of coffee.
Yeah, no kidding. Got to go make it first. But another drink or something. But no, I mean, if anything you guys have, if we can help you out a little bit, heck, I don't care, man. It just goes to help everybody, other people too. So it works its way around. So many times, Craig, we were talking about it a while back, and Craig says, he was looking at this Boost Your Post or something like that. And I looked into it, and it's like $5 a day to promote your Facebook page or something. That's $150 a month. I don't know very much.
At first they said they would donate $5 or something, but you have to pay $5 first.
That's
crap.
And
I go, wait a minute, that's not fair. But
what? I mean,
they got this other thing on the page about they want me to look at this thing about what the page is really for or something like that, and I go, well, we're promoting our podcast and stuff on it. That's what we're doing, and that seems to be working.
Yeah.
We get quite a few people on there every day, commenting and liking and stuff. But I try to keep new information on there. But I don't know. They want to make money off of it.
Yep. Yeah, he said
they're already making money off of my private information, so they can't have any more.
Right. I just never saw a sense in not helping another guy out. Like we were talking about dirt pirate detecting and adventures in history and Don't Tread on Me and with New Age Goonies and all these Facebook pages, the guys we know, the ladies we know. I mean, why wouldn't I help my friends? I mean, if I can do it, I mean, heck, if it gets you somewhere, by golly, do it. That's the way I look at it. There's nothing wrong with making $1 here and there or bringing new people into the hobby or whatever you're after doing. It's a good thing. So, yeah, I mean, we're a family. That's the way I look at it. So help out family.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it work. So, but yeah, brother, I'm probably going to wrap this thing up. I'm starting to babble.
You already threatened to do that a few minutes ago.
I know, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm not professional. I'm horrible. Got to work on that. Got to have a few more drinks right now. I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm drinking soda water, so that tells you. I needed coffee, is what I needed. But I don't begrudge anybody having a beverage of their choice every once in a while. So, but yeah, we'll wrap up the show, guys. We're on every Thursday and Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we're trying to do shows every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when we can. Usually around 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, something like that. If not, we're going to try to fit them in there because we want to kind of make that a regular thing too. It's got to be fun. So we're going to, as long as it's fun, we'll keep on doing it. But at any rate, have a good weekend or what's left of it, and be safe out there. Keep digging, and God bless.